The highest court of our land was known as the Sanhedrin in the times of the temple, which resided on the Temple Mount. It was known as the Sanhedrin, a body of rabbis, judges of 71 that ruled the most difficult of cases. If there was a case that the lower court of 23 judges, which was the minimum amount of judges that you needed to rule over a criminal case that could possibly lead to a death penalty, then the Sanhedrin, the body of 71 rabbis, would decide. The origins of this group of rabbis is interesting because we find the first mention of 70 elders in the story of Moses in Egypt, when God told Moses that you should gather around you 70 elders to help you decide and to lead the Jewish people. Who were these elders? These elders were people that were asked by the Egyptians to be the taskmasters and to oversee the enslavement of the Jewish people and to do what's necessary at times to beat Jewish people if they were out of line. These elders refused and they themselves were beaten. God rewarded them that they would become the future original body of judges of the great court known as the Sanhedrin. There's an interesting nuance of Jewish law when it comes to judging criminal cases that lead to a death penalty. And that is as follows. That we know that in most cases we follow the majority. The majority of rabbis who decide the case in one way, that's the opinion that's followed. But what about if you have someone who's being ruled on a death penalty? In that case, the rabbis tell us that a simple majority is not sufficient. You have to have two more to be able to convict. When it comes to an acquittal, you can have one more. So if you have 36 versus 35, you're okay to acquit, but not when it comes to dishing out a death penalty. In that case, you need to have two more, not just one more, for a majority. We also find another interesting case, and that is that what happens if unanimously everybody votes that the person is deserving of punishment? In such a case, we don't follow the opinion and we have to rule again. Why is this? And the answer may be that first and foremost, we must emulate God. We must be a people that are quicker to acquit than we are to convict. Execution cannot be undone. So one is not sufficient. You have to have two. But when it comes to showing mercy and to getting a person off the hook, all you need is one. But what about the unanimous vote? In secular law, certainly if everyone agrees unanimously, that certainly should pave the way for a conviction. But you see, in Judaism, a Jew only commits a transgression if they are somewhat coerced, if their evil inclination has overpowered them, to have them behave in a way that should not be natural to a Jew. If the entire court unanimously votes against the person, we conclude that there must be some bias. If there's not one judge that can find some little corner of his soul that's worthy of an acquittal, if there's not one judge that can find kindness and can find some excuse why the person should not be found guilty, such a court is not a fair court. Because everyone has some good in him or her. And there has to be at least one judge that's able to see that. And if they can't, then there's something wrong with the entire body of judges. So take a lesson in life. Be quicker to acquit than to convict. Be quicker to find the goodness than to find the badness in people. And if you always think negatively about someone and never find even one iota of benefit, of goodness, then really you need to look at yourself in the mirror, because you're really not judging the person fairly. Have a great Shabbos.